So let me ask you a question, one that's been sort of hanging in the air since that World Cup draw happened. You look at England's group, Group L. You see Serbia, Albania, Latvia, Andorra. What's your immediate, your gut reaction?
Well, the gut reaction and what you see in 90% of the headlines is job done.
Right. A comfortable path.
Yeah.
A guaranteed ticket.
Exactly. And that collective sigh of relief, that assumption of ease, that is precisely where the danger is. What we found from really digging into the sources is that this group is, well, it's a facade. It's built on this illusion of simplicity.
You think it's one of the most deceptively difficult groups they could have got?
I really do. Because underneath those low rankings, you've got these unique tactical landmines and these historical patterns that should, frankly, be a real concern for any England fan.
Okay, so let's unpack that. Our mission today is to go way beyond that casual glance, that conventional wisdom. We're going to get into the source material on the psychological warfare, the tactical chess matches, and the stats that should really change how you, listening at home, see these fixtures.
That's it. The core problem here isn't one big, obvious challenge against, say, a Germany or a Brazil. It's the cumulative effect. It's facing 5 completely different tactical puzzles, one after the other, combined with that constant nagging pressure to win and win big every single time.
And that combination, historically, has been lethal for England.
Absolutely.
So let's start right there with the mental game. Because that's the thing everyone seems to ignore until suddenly we've dropped points. When people, fans, media, maybe even the players see a name like Latvia or Andorra, there's this immediate sense of, well, complacency.
Underestimation is the single greatest threat in a group like this. It really is. And England has such a long, documented history of falling right into that trap. I mean, think back, October 2006. Macedonia at home. A 0-0 draw. At the time, everyone was just baffled. How could we not break them down?
And it wasn't just a bad day at the office, was it? It was a moment where the sheer pressure to score just seemed to get to the team.
Yeah.
It exposed them.
Completely. And it's not an isolated incident. Fast forward to, June 2015? A really frustrating draw with Slovenia at Wembley. In both of those games, the opposition wasn't better. They were just organized, they were disciplined, and they basically fed off England's inability to switch gears from that high-octane club mindset to a more patient international problem-solving mode.
It's a repeating pattern.
It's a definite pattern.
And if you compare that to, say, a match against France, the focus is just automatic. The intensity is there from the first whistle. But you put those same players up against a team they're expected to beat by 4 or 5 goals, and the whole psychology just shifts.
It shifts entirely. That's the psychological variable. The weight of expectation, it actually changes how players make decisions on the pitch. Against a team that's just sitting deep, parking the bus, players feel this pressure to do something spectacular.
To force the issue.
To force it, yeah. They'll try the 30-yard shot or that impossible through ball when really a simple patient pass is what's needed. Frustration starts to build, mistakes creep in, and all of a sudden it's the 85th minute, Andorra has a corner, and the entire stadium is holding its breath.
Which brings us to the tactical puzzles themselves. Because the sources make it clear this isn't just in the players' heads. Let's start with Serbia. On paper, they look like the one real challenge. But the analysis suggests they are almost tailor-made to cause England problems.
What's so interesting about Serbia is their strategy. They have no intention of going toe-to-toe with England on possession. They'll operate in a compact mid-block, often a 3-4-3 or a 3-5-2, and it's all about being solid, being physical through the middle of the park.
So they're not trying to outplay you, they're trying to outfight you.
In a tactical sense, yes. Their whole game is about winning duels, forcing mistakes in crowded areas, and then just unleashing these devastatingly quick transitions.
When you say that physical transition-focused style, my mind just immediately jumps to some of England's biggest heartbreaks.
It should. It's England's kryptonite. Think of Croatia in the 2018 World Cup semifinal, or Italy in the Euro 2020 final. Both of those teams basically neutralized England's strengths by dragging them into a physical, tactical battle. They controlled the center and hit hard and fast. Serbia is cut from that same cloth.
Okay, so then we pivot to Albania. They're not just making up the numbers anymore, are they? The source material talks about this huge investment they've made in their defensive organization.
Albania is, it's the opposite problem to Serbia, but it's just as dangerous. They are masters of the low block. I mean, a really committed, deep defensive structure, often a 5-4-1, sitting right on the edge of their own box.
And breaking that down has been England's Achilles heel for, well, for decades.
For decades. Your talent, your speed, your ranking, It all becomes irrelevant if you can't create space against 11 players who are perfectly drilled, comfortable without the ball, and just waiting to hit you with one or two fast players on the counter.
It sounds like England's going to spend about 80% of this campaign just trying to break down a 5-4-1.
That's the reality of it, and you can't dismiss Latvia and Andorra either. The gap between the elite teams and the so-called minnows is closing. It really is.
Better coaching, better tactical understanding across the board.
Exactly. They're not just turning up for the occasion anymore. They're coming to Wembley with a clear, sophisticated plan, and that plan is to frustrate, to spoil, to disrupt rhythm, waste time, and just hang on for that one moment.
And that frustration is the key, isn't it? They're actively trying to leverage that psychological pressure we were just talking about.
100%. The longer the score stays 0-0, or even 1-0, the more that pressure builds on the England players. For Andorra, keeping it to 1-0 is a huge win. For England, anything less than 3 or 4 feels like a failure to the public, and that pressure filters right onto the pitch.
So if the fundamental problem is all this possession without any real penetration, how do the sources say England should solve it? How do you make possession meaningful?
The tactical solution is all about one word: asymmetry. You have to create asymmetry. You have to stretch their defensive shape and force defenders to make choices they don't want to make.
Asymmetry. That sounds a bit like coaching jargon. For someone watching at home, what does that actually look like on the pitch?
It's about forcing a defense to commit players to an area it doesn't want to. And to do that, you need a few things working at once. First, you need players operating in the half spaces.
Right, those channels between the center back and the fullback.
Exactly. It's the hardest place for a defender to track a runner without messing up their own defensive line.
Yeah.
So you need intelligent players who can get on the ball in those tight spots.
Attacking midfielders, inside forwards, that kind of player.
That's the profile. Second, you absolutely must have fullbacks providing genuine, constant width. They have to be a crossing threat, forcing the opposition to stretch out wide.
Which, in theory, creates the space back in the middle.
It does. Third, you need your midfielders arriving late into the box to create an overload. And this is critical. Your striker can't just be a static target. He has to be fluid, dropping deep sometimes to drag a defender with him, which then creates this huge gap for runners to attack. It's a really sophisticated system for what looks like a simple task.
So the key to unlocking the smaller teams is maximum tactical sophistication. But let's go back to Serbia for a second. You said they rely on transition. What does that mean for England's defense?
Okay, so transition defense is all about those 5 to 7 seconds right after you lose the ball. When Serbia win it back, they don't mess around. They look to launch it forward immediately, catching England's defenders, especially the fullbacks, high up the pitch.
So in those moments, your two central midfielders are the most important players on the field.
They are everything. Their job isn't just to attack. It's to be in the perfect position to screen the defense and cut off those forward passes. The second possession is lost. The Serbia game will be won and lost in those chaotic, high-speed moments.
And against the others, like Albania or Latvia, the danger isn't chaos, it's the opposite. It's boredom. It's that frustration factor.
It's pure mental fatigue. The longer that clock ticks with the score close, the more you see players trying to force it. That impossible shot, that dribble through 3 players. Patience and precision are what you need, but they're often the first things to go when the anxiety kicks in.
Let's look at what history tells us about this. The source material talks a lot about this idea of the curse of comfortable qualification.
This is such a crucial point. Take the Euro 2016 qualifying campaign. England just sailed through. 10 wins from 10 matches. Looked unstoppable.
But what did that actually prepare them for?
Nothing. It failed to give them any genuine, high-pressure, problem-solving tests.
And then they ran into Iceland at the tournament.
And Iceland presented them with a tactically perfect, deep defensive block. The exact puzzle they hadn't been forced to solve under real pressure. They were totally unprepared for the level of execution required, and it led to, well, one of the most embarrassing exits in modern history. Qualifying too easily can actually be a huge disadvantage.
Which ties right back to what you call the asymmetry of motivation. For England, it's a job to be done. For their opponents, it's the game of their lives.
That's it in a nutshell. For a player from Andorra or Latvia, facing England is their World Cup final. They bring an intensity you can't replicate in training. They play above themselves. England's players, coming from that relentless high-pressure club world, they can struggle to find that same maximum mental edge for a qualifier they're supposed to win easily. It's a small gap, but in football, it's everything.
And the historical pressure points just keep backing this up. England so often struggles when the pressure is on in a group they should be dominating.
We've got so many examples. Needing that late goal against Poland for the 2014 World Cup, that painful 0-0 against Montenegro for the Euros in 2012.
The 0-0 against Algeria in the 2010 World Cup was just incredibly frustrating to watch.
All of them share the same DNA. A failure to break down an organized defense, tactical inflexibility, and just crumbling under the psychological weight of being the overwhelming favorite.
Okay, so if we don't want to just repeat history, what are the imperatives for success? For this England team to navigate Group L without those classic slip-ups, what has to be different?
First thing, tactical flexibility is mandatory. It's not an option. The manager needs to have multiple systems ready to go. The players you need against Serbia, physical, solid midfielders who can protect you in transition, are completely different to the players you need against Andorra, where you need creative unlockers who can play risky passes. The squad has to reflect that.
So you can't just pick your 11 best players. You have to pick the 11 best players for that specific tactical job. You mentioned the fullbacks being critical.
Against the deep blocks, they have to be your primary attacking weapons. They have to provide width and quality delivery. But against Serbia, they also have to have the discipline to know when not to go, to protect against that counterattack. It's a real high-wire act.
And if open play is going to be so congested, so difficult, then set pieces have to be the key, right? The tiebreaker.
Set pieces are going to be absolutely decisive in this campaign. England has a huge aerial advantage. Against a packed 5-4-1, that might be your only clear path to goal. Every corner, every free kick has to be treated like a golden opportunity.
And finally, there's the management of it all. Navigating the media, keeping the players from getting tight, and making sure every single opponent gets the same level of professional respect. That's a huge task over 10 games.
The manager's job is to maintain that constant professional intensity, to make sure the effort against Latvia is identical to the effort against Serbia. It's a really delicate psychological balancing act.
So to just sum it all up for everyone listening, the difficulty in Group L isn't a single powerhouse opponent. It's that the group contains all the individual elements that have historically caused England to slip.
Yes, the sustained psychological pressure, the organized transition team in Serbia, and those ultra-deep defensive blocks from everyone else.
It's like a greatest hits of England's past failures, all in one group.
It is, which means this campaign is much more than just a path to 2026. It's a chance to develop the tactical flexibility and the psychological maturity you need to win a tournament. If they solve these 10 puzzles, they will arrive at the World Cup ready for anything.
Which leaves us with the ultimate question for you to think about as you watch this all unfold.
The question is, will England approach this group with the tactical sophistication and the mental resilience needed to finally break these old destructive patterns? Because how they walk this path across these 10 tricky fixtures will define their World Cup 2026 before a ball is even kicked in the tournament itself.